Hello and welcome to The Bike Show. Now this week we've got quite a mixed bag for you. We've got a South African who's going for a world record. He did try last year, he failed, but he's coming back for more. And later in the show we've got quite a serious but very, very valid road safety message for you. And first...
Well, first, let's cross over to two of our regular contributors who had the exceptional and extraordinary opportunity to ride some of the world's best race bikes. Normally, when you get an invite from a manufacturer to go on an international launch, it's to test their newest, latest model that's destined for the road. But these two chaps, Donovan from Bike SA magazine and Clinton Pienart from Superbike magazine, now both have just published stories in their magazines which are on the shelves right now about something slightly different. BMW, let me start with you, Clinton. They've taken you to Jerez in the south of Spain even. What was it for? What were you riding?
It was quite a special invite. We rode 6 of the RR models that BMW supports around the world. So if I can just name them quickly, we rode the super stock, the German super stock, the German superbike. We rode Michael Dunlop's actual 1000RR that he won the superbike and senior TT on. We rode Sylvain Barrier's bike. We rode the World Endurance 24-hour bike, and Kiyonari, he won the double in the British Superbikes on the Sunday, and on Tuesday we were riding that bike.
Unbelievable. Now, they're all race bikes, but Donovan, they're all BMW S1000RRs under the skin. Is there that much a difference between all of them at one end of the scale to the other? Superstock, say, to Michael Dunlop's? Which is the most powerful, frightening one?
Well, okay, most of them either run Superstock rules, which means they've got tons of chassis changes but almost standard engines, or they run the Superbike Evo rules, which is full chassis world Superbike but also a standard engine. The only one that really wasn't was Michael Dunlop's TT bike. That is a full world Superbike, 220 monstrous horsepower.
So what you're saying then is it's amazing, but for the road circuit of the Isle of Man, that is the hairiest beast of the lot.
It is. I mean, it was interesting. They changed the gearing because there you run the longest gearing you possibly can. They made it slightly shorter, so it was road gearing slightly longer. We're only getting third gear out on that track, which is just, I mean, it's ridiculous. But even then, you're still blasting past all these bikes,
fast.
you know. You have these guys with the proper gearing, and you're still hearing past them like they're standing still.
But as I understand it, this Michael Dunlop TT bike is actually a second-hand world superbike, is it? I mean, is this the sort of thing that Melandri was riding around on?
I must tell you, he must be the most cagey person to have an interview with, and I think I was like 15th in line by the time I was asking him questions and everything. I even asked him about traction control, like how do they set it for the Isle of Man? He said, oh, I don't know about that, you know? Like,
That's the worst Irish accent I've ever heard.
But I mean, he tried it, and he was just not.
So you saying cagey? Let's be honest. It sounds like he was a miserable bugger, was he?
He's not very pleasant, no.
Donovan, will you have a second opinion on that?
Yeah, he's not very communicative. His team's lovely because you chat to them and they all laugh and he stands there.
Okay, so let me cut to. I know how these launches work. They were probably there for about half an hour and had to fly back. It's terrible when you get there. You get a very short amount of laps. Did they let you learn? I mean, Jerez is a new track for both of you. Did you get to learn the track before going out on a 200 horsepower race bike?
We're professionals. They give you 3 laps. I mean, I didn't even know if I should turn left or right.
So you get a flyer, basically. You get an out, a flyer, and an in lap.
And on each bike, you get 3 bikes. They give you an HP4 to learn the track with for 3 laps.
Okay.
And then off you go.
Now, the thing I remember, Donovan, about BMW Superbike, whether it's the RR or the HP4 even, although, let's say it's probably the best of the superbikes at the minute, and it's deceptively civilised. Look, it is brain-fryingly fast, but they're not difficult to ride. Is that the same at race bike level?
Actually, okay, they put onto slick mode, which is the least amount of electronic interference. This is the standard 1000. Now, they said, no problem, we're going to send you on a standard HP4 to get used to the track. We're thinking, what? Obviously before we ride the race bikes. And with all the traction control and most of it switched off, honestly, it is like this. Bam, wheelie, bam, wheelie, bam, wheelie. And that's a standard bike. Yeah. Then you get onto old Dunlop's 220 horsepower, and it's just...
And is it exactly the same thing? I mean, did they feel massively different for an average reader viewer? Would it feel like a BMW?
Well, it was interesting. As I say, we got 3 laps on each bike, so not a lot. By the time you get off on the first bike, you know which way pit lane goes, and that's about it. By the time we got to about the 3rd bike, you start getting used to the track. But before then, we rode the World Endurance Championship bike, which has a whole lot of suspension changes and all of that. But at that stage, I was still going relatively slowly because we didn't know the track. And to be honest, the standard bike actually at that stage felt better than the Dunlop race bike.
Makes sense,
purely because, you know, those race bikes need to be ridden hard. They need to be ridden close to their limit. But once we got towards the end, where you're riding Sylvain Berrier's bike, Michael Dunlop's bike, by then you start feeling, wow, the suspension actually works. So what's interesting, I mean, only really the hardcore racers can, you know, will need that extra, that extra goodies. Where
I want to just say that Sylvain Berrier's bike, I don't know, to me, it is as good as you think it is. Like, you know those FGR 300 forks?
Yes,
I think
the Öhlins.
Öhlins, they cost 15,000 euros a set. And I promise you, the first time you brake hard at the end of the straight and you go over the bumps, it feels like you've got still full travel. And then I actually thought I overdid it. And as I pitched it in, I made, look, by the time things go wrong, they're going to go wrong badly. But the level is, it is as good as what you think it's going to be.
Is that the sort of component then, if you're a pretty good track day guy? Because I've always thought these race components are just, it's not necessary for someone of my pace. Would someone like me feel them then if you had them on the bike?
For sure. I promise you, when you brake, you've still got all the travel. The feel that I don't know if you felt the same, but as you took the corner, the feel from the chassis, you just want to go far.
So it's giving you confidence all the time.
You're very well aware that you must not crash the bike. The whole time you've got this thing talking in your ear. You don't want to crash.
Yes, I understand that.
But you just want to go faster. It's just that feel coming through the chassis.
So the most impressive of all the bikes then, Donovan?
Sure, okay, the monstrous one is that Michael Dunlop bike. Purely it's 220 horsepower, but the Sylvain Berrier one, I mean, it's as close to a factory world superbike as BMW don't admit to having, if you know what I mean. You get on this thing and all the others just feel like they're put together by professional workshops. I mean, you know, they feel good, but there's always that slight sort of, you know, kind of slightly. Whereas this thing you get on and it feels like the top engineers in BMW got together and put this thing together in a special part of the factory, you know, specially made for this. Everything just feels perfect. I mean, it feels like it was built to be exactly that.
And yourself?
A stupid little example. A Berrier's bike, there's like this high-speed right-hand corner that you'd come out in third gear, and they tell you can just keep it pinned because it's got the wheelie control. So as you come out, and there's a bit of a dip, the front wheel carries, but only slightly, and the gear change is more like just like a slight poke, and it hooks the next gear, and it's the most controlled sensation you could ever have. It's like, it is really that good. I wonder what the MotoGP bikes feel like.
Even better.
I don't
know.
know.
BMW created a bit of a ruckus, didn't they, when they pulled out of World Superbikes, and everyone sort of turned their noses up at them and said, how dare you tease us? You had Melandri doing so well on it. What are you doing? This is their way then of saying, well, look, we're not out of it at all. We're actually doing more things than we ever did before.
Well, the recipients of this new strategy of theirs is actually our very own Lance Isaacs and Brent Herron, which is the last race at Zwartkops took the double, not the double, the first and second. And I mean, they are direct recipients of this. They receive support from the factory, which would have been some of the support that the works team actually got. Instead of saying, right, we're going to pull our money in one pot, which is Melandri and Davies, they said, no, okay, take it out. We're going to spread it around all the national championships, the world championships, give each of them support.
There's 100,000 euros up for grabs. 1.5 million.
Who's eligible to win this then?
The winner can get 20,000, so that's 300,000 rand, and from World Superbike, it works in tiers. So the guy the points would be weighted. So the higher the championship, the more points you'd get. But a guy down.
So Lance Isaacs here in South Africa he's de facto
points.
Taking part in this championship.
He is, and Brent would also be nice.
Yeah. Okay. So that's BMW's thrust now, is to spread their largesse and their technical knowledge right through the national championship.
Just an interesting thing, obviously the lower down the ranking goes, you can't have a direct phone call to the guy. Like obviously Berrier would have a direct phone call, but down the line the guys were saying that even a guy participating at club level will have an email address that he could send his data login to. The guys will analyze it for him and send it back to him, and he can then go and plug and play it in his bike. So even
that's the state of
Thunderbikes, Zwartkops.
BMW will help you out by analysing. Well, that's the state of digital technology today, isn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you very much to these chaps. Their magazines are on the shelves right now. Go and get them, Superbike magazine and Biker Say magazine. Interesting to see their two takes on what are BMW's top racers from around the world.